Hi everybody and welcome back. In the previous exercise we did a practice finding basic shapes from reference images. In the next exercise we're going to take it to the next logical step again. And what we're going to do is we're going to take one reference image, import it of course, and we're going to do basically the same thing. We're going to start off essentially the same. We're going to draw some basic shapes. I mean, these shapes are kind of subjective, so I mean, it's not subjective, but there's no one right answer. So which shapes you choose will like slightly affect the style. But I don't want to say I know the right shapes and your shapes are wrong. So pick the shapes which you feel comfortable with. Remember, at the end of the day, it's about practice. It's not about being wrong or right. You will get a result and you'll either be satisfied with it or not. But the point is, next time you'll do things a little bit differently. And it's an iterative process until eventually you'll really like what you're drawing. Now I'm going to test check it. And as you can see, I got it okay. Pretty good. You should have seen me when I was starting this exercise. I've gotten much better anyway. I'm just making some minor adjustments. So now it's up to you to decide. Are you satisfied or not? You might want to start from scratch if you're a perfectionist and you want to, like, if you're frustrated that you didn't do well enough, just start from scratch. Or if you think good enough, I'm gonna proceed. It doesn't have to be perfect. Or alternatively, you can just make some small adjustments. Like I'm gonna do now. I think I'm just gonna adjust this leg. So now we move on to the next phase. The next phase is to add a new layer, decrease the transparency of this layer. And what we're going to do now is we're going to draw rough lines on top of this layer. So I want to not focus on the basic shapes, but I want to focus on a bit more detail and a bit more on the shape of the line. So example, I'm going to focus on this particular shape of the surfboard. It's a bit curved. And then it straightens. Oh, I'm drawing on the wrong layer. Excuse me. So there's this kind of curve over there. Remember what we're talking about? Basic curves approximated as line segments. It's a bit easier. And basically we want to follow our basic shapes, but we want to add, we want to fine tune it. And let's see if it looks all right. So I'm going to make some adjustments to where I think it needs improvement. That's another thing, is you have to look at your thing with a critical eye. And that's another thing where this exercise is quite good, because we learn together to evaluate what we're drawing. Right now we're still doing rough lines, so it doesn't really matter that much if we're making a mess of the lines, which is like gives you a lot of actually freedom to try things out and to see what works and what doesn't. Okay, I'm gonna say good enough like this. We're gonna do one more layer called the finished lines. And for finish lines, I am using an inking brush. This, if you're using Krita, it's called Ink Free G Pen, but I modified it a bit to make it a bit more pressure sensitive, because I really like pressure sensitive brushes. Now that I've picked my brush, my inking brush, and set the color to black, I'm gonna start inking. This is quite a tricky stage. I kind of like it, but it's also quite hard. And there we have it. We need to make some touch-ups. So have a look at your drawing and see what looks good. Try to see where's the difference between the reference image and what you drew. Anyway, when you're more or less ready with the finish lines, you can try to color it in if you like. I'm gonna add one more layer called color. Right now I'm only gonna do very rudimentary coloring because we haven't covered anything like shading and highlighting. So what we're gonna do in the next exercise is to do an exercise that will help us see these go from basic forms, from basic shapes to basic forms, because where basic shapes are completely flat, basic forms are three-dimensional, and that will help us understand shading and highlighting. So let me just quickly do a very rudimentary coloring in to make this image look a bit better. And after that, I'm going to see you in the next exercise tomorrow. So have a good day. Keep practicing. Bye bye.